Welcome to this new tutorial. My name is Vicky and I'll be giving voice to this tutorial by Didac, in which we learn one of the techniques used to create plants and vegetation in Cinema 4D. In 3D, we can use different procedures to create vegetation, always having in mind the purpose it has. In video games, for example, if we need to fill a scene with a lot of vegetation, we can't model each plant individually with polygons. The number of polygons will be very high and it ends up slowing down the process. The techniques we're going to see are perfect to generate vegetation in a 3D environment, as in video games. We save time processing images. With this method, instead of modeling each plant or vegetation polygon, we generate plants optimizing that way with geometry. Then we link these plants to texture we have previously created in Photoshop or other more specialized software, like Bitmap 2 Material or Crazy Bump. Thanks to the color, alpha, and normal map texture, we create the perfect balance between the result and the optimization. Okay, said that, let's see how we do it. The first thing we need to do is having the picture or image of the plant. To do so, go to Google and look for plant's picture in PNG format. That means they are in transparency. We could also choose a photograph from the internet or take a photograph of a plant we like, and then delete the background on Photoshop. Alright? As I'm saying, you can find lots of images, and then another option we have is going to Freepik and look for vector files of plants. It doesn't matter whether you choose vector, picture, or photograph, because we'll go first to Photoshop to create and prepare the different texture. It will serve us for the tutorial. Alright? For example, I've searched ferns here on Freepik, and I have downloaded this vector you see here. I have also looked for another vectors on Freepik and have saved this plant. Once we have downloaded everything we need, we have to go to Illustrator. Here you have some examples of what I have downloaded from Freepik. Now take these vectors and bring them to Photoshop. So open Photoshop and create a new document. We will create a document of 1500 pixels with a 72 ppi resolution. Okay, hit create. Okay, we will paste the vector files, so go back to Illustrator and grab this fern, for example, and bring it to Photoshop. Now hold Shift and scale the vector till you get more or less this size. Alright. Now go to File, Save As, and save it as color. And choose the format PNG or JPG, as you want. I'll choose PNG. Okay, now we need to create the texture that we will serve as mask in 3D. To do so, go to the background layer. Double-click to unblock. And now press G or grab the Paint Bucket tool and select the black color to paint the background. Go to Vector Layer and right-click on it to open the layer style properties. We need to paint the fern in white. To do so, select Color Overlay, and in here we can change the color. But in our case, we want it in white, so leave it as it is. Hit OK. And now we have the layer mask that we will have in Cinema 4D. Go to File, Save As, and save it as alpha and choose either PNG or JPG, like we did before. Good. Finally, we'll have to create the normal map. First of all, I want to highlight that this step is not totally essential. So if you have Photoshop Extended, you'll see this option, 3D, available and activated. And here, on Filter, you have the 3D option. In case you don't have Photoshop Extended or you have an older version, you might not find this option. But as I have said, it is not essential. What we achieve with the normal map is generate volume to the leaves in a subtle way. We achieve this effect, alright? So, if you have Photoshop Extended, follow this step, and if not, you can skip it and go to the following one. Awesome, so go here and activate this effect. We have created to make the leaf green again. Go to the background and apply white to it. Alright, now take these two elements, pressing Shift, right-click, and merge layers to link these two layers. Cool. Now, with the layer selected, go to Filter, 3D, and generate normal map. Hit OK, and a window like this will pop up. Here we can do a couple of things, like inverting the volume simulation. In this case, we will leave it deactivated. And we could also increase the soft focus of this effect. The more focused, the stronger this effect will be, or less diffused. And leave this value at 2. Here we have the details scale viewer. We can move it to the bottom or to the top. If you have a look over here, we have the details contrast. And we'll leave this as it is. Cool, hit OK. And we have generated the normal map. We can follow this step with Photoshop or with other software like Bitmap 2 Material or Crazy Bump. Cool, now go to File, Save As, and save it as normal and choose the format, PNG or JPG. Cool, now we can go to Cinema 4D. Once you're here, let's set a floor. Go to Primitives, and here create a plane. Go to Display and activate Gored Shading to see the lines of this map. Have a look at the Properties panel on your right. We have 20 width and height segment, so change it to 1 and 1. Alright, now we're going to scale it with these two orange points like this. Place the texture we have created on this plane. To create a new material, double-click in this material panel. This window will pop up, and in here we will apply the texture we have created on Photoshop. Go to Color and click on the dots you see next to texture. Choose the color texture, hit Yes, and now it's ready. Deselect the reflectance option, activate the alpha box, and now upload the mask we have created on Photoshop. This will serve us as a transparency function, and it will help to delay the background. Okay, What we have to do as well is place a normal map. So first, tick the box and upload it clicking on the 3 dots. Right. Now, if you grab the material and drag it to the plane, you'll see the image in transparency. You can drag this orange point to expand as you wish. I will leave it as the original, more or less like this. Now we'll make a couple of cuts to give a better shape to the plant. To do so, first we need to have the map editable. Press C or click on this icon on the left corner. Now go to the polygon function and click over the map. You'll see these options. Choose Loop Path Cut and make this horizontal cut. Go to the edges. Go to Selection option up in the toolbar and select the points or edges of the plane. Okay. Perfect. You can do this and generate this curve, and by doing this we get more volume. We gain time doing this rather than doing it individually with polygons. Now we have to clone this. How we can do it? Well, go to Plane and change its name to Plant. With the plant selected, go to MoGraph and choose the option Clone while pressing Alt. So the plant is inside the clone. Now go to Object and change the mode to Radial. Go to Plane and change it to XZ. Here on Count and Radius, increase these two values to generate more copies and give more space between them. We can go to Transform, and here we can change the orientation of these leaves. If you see, the best thing of this is that we take this plant we have created and generate an image. We'll see how it casts a shadow, you see? In here. Awesome, right? The shadow is casted and it respects the alpha mask we have created. It can happen that if we place the plant near the floor, when we generate the image, it can cast an unwanted shadow. Like this. These shadows over here, to prevent this, we have to go to the plant. Right-click and click on Cinema 4D, Tags and choose Compositing. Now, from this icon here, go to the Composition menu and deactivate the option Seen by AO, Ambient Occlusion. By doing this, if we generate the image, the unwanted shadow disappears. Perfect. Deactivate the Go Out shading for a moment. And insert this clone into the other clone. To do so, go to MoGraph and while pressing Alt, put the clone inside the other clone. Perfect. Go to Object and Linear Mode. make 2 copies, and instead of from transformation, go to the axis to rotate these leaves. For example, 40 degrees in the x-axis. If we insert another floor, we can scale the size of these leaves, for example, to 80. And make the distance between them shorter. Okay, so with this, we can create a plant with a lot of leaves, but with few polygons. As I've said, we can create another floor. Set 80 here on scale. And make the distance between them to 30 instead of 50. As I was saying, we get a plant full of leaves with a huge level of optimization, adapted to video games, for example, or any other image we want to fill with a lot of vegetation, saving time from rendering. Saying that, take this plant to a group object. Go to MoGraph, Cloner, and go to Object Properties and select the mode Grid Array. Insert 5 copies in the axis X and Z and 1 in the Y-axis. And modify the distance between them to something like that. A bit more, yeah. Like this. If we had made this plant polygon by polygon, we would have to wait a lot of time to process the render. This method helps us optimizing the time for a scene like that. The more vegetation it has, the better it'll be used this process. Now, obviously, what we can do is create new fern texture in Photoshop. Change the color, the shape, to create a variation between the clones. Another interesting thing we could do is select the cloner and go to MoGraph, Effect, and Random. Down here, we have the effect. Double-click on it, and we can change the parameters like the position, the scale, or the rotation of these elements. Activate the 3 elements. We can modify this, add a variation to the x-axis of the position, the y-axis of the position, and the z-axis of the position. We could also add a variation to the scale. To do so, activate the Uniform Scale and modify it. And as I said it, we can modify the rotation and rotate the elements randomly. So if we want to increase the difference between these plants, as I said, we can go to Photoshop and search another images of ferns or other pictures to create more variation between these plants. Another important thing is the difference between having the normal map and not having it or not activating it. The first picture is with the normal map activated, and the second one is without it. You see the difference, right? It's pretty remarkable, the one with the normal map, because it has a lot of depth, thanks to the map. As I said, it's not essential, but if you have the chance to create it, it will have a better result. Now we could export this to an engine like Unreal Engine and work with these plants. Or we could go to Marmoset and work with these plants to create woods or a jungle. We could obviously create another different scene or new plants. For example, this one here. Remember, we have to take this vector to Photoshop to adapt it to the format we have set, and then create the 3 textures. The color, which we can save it, the alpha map, that remember we have to go to Layer Style, activate the color overlay in white, and then apply black to the background. Alright. Then we have to save this document, and going back, we could merge these 2 layers. Go to Filter, 3D, Generate Normal Map, and hit OK. Here you can modify any aspect you wish. Cool. Save this too. Once in Cinema 4D, you have to create a primitive. In this case, a plane. Bring down the number of segments. And down here, create the texture or the materials that will go in this plane, and we've just made on Photoshop. Select the color, deactivate the reflectance, activate the normal map and the alpha map, and place the texture where they go. Alright? Now place the material into a plane. Rotate it. And we will have the plant ready. Remember that in this moment we can make this object editable. And make a couple of horizontal or vertical cuts to generate different shape and give a sense of more volume to the plant. Activate the polygons and right-click on the shape. Select either line cut or loop path cut. Make these cuts and then select the edges and modify them to generate a different shape to give the impression of depth. Perfect. Fine. To finish this tutorial, if you were thinking of the alternatives to Photoshop to create these kind of things, let me recommend you, for example, Substance Painter and Bitmap 2 Material. With these 2 software, we can create texture in 4K. The advantage of this is that we can create elements in detail and give the impression of real plants in a 3D environment. These programs, in addition to creating 4K or 2K texture, they make easier to create more texture like height map, roughness map, or translucency map. We can create texture with other colors like albedo that works with programs like Marmoset. The advantages of programs like Substance Painter or Bitmap 2 Material is that we have a wider range of elements for this purpose. Obviously, if we take these images to Cinema 4D, we can create an image with these plants and the result is even better. So, if you want to try out these programs, don't hesitate, you can download a commercial demo. To create these plants, we have done exactly the same. That is, work with planes I hadn't changed the number of segments here, it doesn't matter. And regarding the texture, we have worked with color, normal map, and alpha map. The difference between this and before is that we have activated the reflectance map to be able to activate the roughness texture. Alright? To do so, simply delete what we have made and add the effect GGX. Go to roughness, bring this, and put the material in here, the roughness. And then on the layer color, select black to lower the metal hue. As you see, it's exactly the same. You see how the shadow is perfectly casted. Okay, that's all. From pictures or vectors, you can model these elements. I hope you liked this tutorial and see you on the following. Bye!